Right now, we are very privileged to have in our studio right now Tim Wheeler, the man behind Rocketoons. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Tim. Thanks for having me.
You're right here in Michigan,
yes,
a little north of Muskegon, and Rocketoons is kind of a thing that's up and running for free for kids and educators and parents in all 83 counties of Michigan.
Absolutely. And the key there, you already hit it, free. So what I always say to everybody is if somebody tells you otherwise, either call me or call the police, because that's not true. So they are up and running. We had sponsors that helped us get up and running in, I think, 22 or 23 of the counties. Mercy Health, Hackley Community Care, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, Lori's Place. But then we realized, hey, we're in a great position. Let's open this up for teachers, parents, caregivers, kids themselves, all over the state. So it's all online, all available, all free.
I think it's a great thing. Tell us what it is, though. What is Rocketoons?
Yeah, absolutely. And first, it's always smart to bring visual things for a radio conversation.
Right, yeah.
There are some of the characters.
Yeah.
Some stickers
I'll
for
hold
you.
this up to the microphone. Yeah, that's
so what they are, one of the ways that I like to describe them is think of 21st century schoolhouse rock. But instead of the Bill on Capitol Hill or Naughty Number 9, the topics are stressors, things that we all deal with, but things that kids are dealing with more and more with this generation. Cyberbullying, moving to a new school, death of a loved one, divorce, scheduling too many activities, all these things that get in the way of kids being kids. But what we've found, and I was already working on these cartoons when I learned this from someone much smarter than I am, but these stressors, adverse childhood experiences, these are having legitimate, terrifying impacts on the health and well-being of these kids. There was a study done, I think it was 21 years ago, and they tracked 17,000 people, and long story short, if you have a certain number of these adverse childhood experiences, you don't live as long, as terrifying as that sounds.
Wow.
And when I first heard that, I thought, oh, you know what? I get it. Substance abuse, maybe suicide, and those are in there. But also ischemic heart disease, COPD, type 2 diabetes, because the body's so busy fighting off this stressor. So that's all over here. Your body's not able to fight off other things, and you start making bad choices, and your body's not in a good place to be anyway, and it just becomes a house of cards. So
sure, and we all know that as adults, but think about if you start out life that way and then continue on that stressful path. It can't lead anywhere good for a kid. And
there is this fascinating movie called Resilience, resiliencemovie.com. I think you can find it. And there is a Harvard professor, and this great line, he said, we all tend to think the kids are flexible. They'll get over it. And his line is, the child may not remember, but their body does. And so these things really have a long-lasting impact. So what the cartoons do is they start what we call a cartoon versation. So they're 3 to 4 minutes long, and each one, and this is all online, it comes with what we call a cartoon versation card. So, Tim, you could have a conversation with a kid. You can watch the cartoon together, and then there are 5 questions, 5 factoids, and 5 vetted websites. You can spend 5 minutes, do 1 question. You can spend 2 hours and go through all of the questions and have the kids go to the website. It's always up to you, or it's up to the teacher. And speaking of teachers, everybody can use these, but we realized kids are in school. This is a great place to do this, but teachers don't have 4 minutes in their day. So they are all already aligned with the Common Core state standards. And that's on the website too, grades 1 through 12. So a teacher, if she has what's called, how do the smart people word this to me? Structured video followed by facilitated conversation, which is code for watch a cartoon and talk about it.
Yeah.
But there are all of these bullet points that they can take off of their to-do list. And I have one 4th grade teacher, and she said to me, Tim, if I spend 20 minutes doing the cartoon and the conversation, she was able to take 100 minutes of required work off of her to-do list. So, teachers don't have 4 minutes, and I can't give somebody a 25th hour in a day, but apparently teachers have found a way to use the cartoons and actually free up their day.
It's a time investment.
Yeah.
I like it. Why cartoons? I think I know the answer to this because I can recite long periods of Bugs Bunny cartoons. All right, Clancy, where are you hiding? Clancy, take the boys and surround the house.
You might, Rabbit, you might. Oh, my gosh.
My friend Rocky was in this stove. Would I turn on the gas? You might, Rabbit, you might. Would I throw in a lighted match?
Oh, all right. This conversation, we're going to be on this all day now. I love that.
Yeah.
And that, you couldn't have picked a better example. I've loved cartoons my whole life. I got older, but I didn't grow up, I don't think. And I'm a writer by design. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. I have an animator for that. But I've always wanted to do cartoons. And once upon a time, I used to write a humor column in American Airlines, in the In-Flight magazine. And I got to interview Chuck Jones. And that look on your face tells you already know. That's the man who, of course, created Bugs Bunny.
All of them.
And I always say that it was the greatest professional day of my life. And I will clean up what Mr. Jones said to me. But I was in advertising at the time, and he said, "My boy, you need to get out of advertising and make cartoons. That's what you were meant to do." So when the greatest animator, in my opinion, ever puts his hands on my shoulders and tells me that, I thought I'd better listen to Chuck. So with that inspiration, I've been trying, I've been looking, and then it just, I'd like to say I planned it, Tim, but my background with healthcare and education and writing all just kind of came together, and I realized I think I know how to do this.
You can go and see what we're talking about, Rocketoons.com, and you just put in the county and state, like Calhoun with a capital C-M-I, all one word, and bam, you're in there and you can see them. And one of them I brought up, well, first of all, it talks about what are stressors, which you've already explained. There's such a variety of things. I mean, it could be a volcano erupting in your neighborhood, like the kids in Hawaii are having an experience right now. Yeah. Or, it could be some kid being mean at school. It could be a divorce. The whole list of things that kids have to deal with. So the cartoon explains that with some of these beloved characters and stuff. And then it gets to a letter.
Here's an email from Rachel in Rocket City. Let's see if we can help. My name is Rachel. I am in 3rd grade, and I need a break. I have school. I have soccer. I have piano. And swimming. I also have Wilderness Explorer twice a week. And now my school has a community garden. I'm on carrot duty. I go to bed exhausted. I wake up tired. And then I have to do it all over again. I like all of these things, but I'm worn out.
Ooh, that's an awful lot for a 3rd grader to handle.
That's an awful lot for anyone to handle.
And that's sort of how things get going as far as the conversation. Kids watch these cartoons and they can relate to stuff like that. And more and more stuff gets piled on all of our plates, especially as adults, but that's happening with kids too. And you have parents who want to get them prepared for their college education and to be able to get into the school they want. And so you got to do dance, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. And I mean, my goodness, how do you choose which one to give up?
There was, eons ago, there was a great letter that Irma Bombeck wrote, and I think it was a letter to her kids or to her grandkids, and one of the things she wishes for them is, I hope that you're bored. And what she meant, even back then, what she meant was so that you're not constantly moving from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, because you don't necessarily ever have time to breathe. You don't necessarily ever have time to figure out who you are. And it's funny, that clip that you played, I've lost track of how many times adults have turned to me and said, "So when are you going to make cartoons for us?"
Yeah, no kidding.
We're stressed out too. And I suppose theoretically these fit for adults too. Those characters, by the way, those are all single-celled organisms. So there's a euglena, an amoeba, and a paramecium there. And all of the characters, we have lots of different ones in all of the different episodes, but none of them are human. And that was something that Chuck Jones taught me. He even said, Elmer Fudd was not my idea. I was stuck with them. But he said, Tim, use critters, whether they're real or imagined. Basically, he said it's more fun, but what I've learned is that it's easier for a kid to identify with a talking pumpkin or a talking single-celled organism than if I were in it. In other words, I look like me. Mm-hmm. I'm always going to look like me. That may or may not resonate with a kid who has a different background, different culture, anything. But and this is the beauty and the magic of cartoons to me, Tim, is that we can recognize our tendencies in a pumpkin that worries about being the last one picked and has low self-esteem, and we just forget all about the fact that it's a pumpkin, and we connect on those feelings. And it's a much more pure connection, especially for kids who are much more willing to just kind of forego the fact that the pumpkin's talking. They don't care. And they're able to see themselves, they're able to identify, and as you said, they're able to relate. And it's just, to me, it's magical that cartoons have always been able to do that.
Tim Wheeler Creative Studios is with us. They are behind Rocketoons, available free now in all 83 Michigan counties. You can go to rocketoons.com, watch one of them right now for free, and you can do that anywhere, anytime. We're talking about Rocketoons, and Tim Wheeler is with us from Wheeler Creative Studios. These Rocketoons, they're cartoons for kids, free online. Teachers can use them, parents can use them, and they look at things that, stress all of us out. But as Tim was alluding to, the fact that kids under these stressors develop all kinds of problems, even physical problems as a result, trying to do too much stuff, trying to deal with a problem at home like a divorce or maybe a bully in the neighborhood, or even sexual identity as they get older. How do these cartoons, how do Rocketoons get made? I mean, what's the process?
That's a good question. The writing, the creation of the characters, that all comes from me, and then I have an animator. He actually lives in New York. And then my actors, I'm an old radio guy, so my actors are my actors that I used to do with my radio commercials, and they live in Asheville, North Carolina. But the cartoons essentially are made here where I live in West Michigan. And the topics themselves come from, I have kind of a loose, unofficial team, but I have psychologists, counselors, teachers, superintendent, curriculum director, and then I have healthcare clients as well. So the ideas come from my conversations with these people, and then I will do a little bit of research, and I will write the script, and then I will run it back through the group to make sure that I'm factually accurate with the things that I'm saying. And then they're the ones that also help me develop the Cartoonversation card. So from there, it all starts with the writing, starts with the script, and then we go to doing the voice work. And then you and I were talking during the commercial break. It's the most time-consuming piece, but it's also one of the funniest, the sound effects, is pulling the sound effects. And sometimes I will look at my desk and I realize I have all of these sound effects CDs, and I'm looking for the best version of boing, and I'm thinking, this is my job. This counts? This counts as a job?
Yeah.
So we'll put all those together, and I have two different sound engineers. They put it together. Then my animator, he's already given me the character drawings. He breathes life into them, and then my IT team puts them online, and there we go.
How many are there so far? There
are 11 right now, and there will be, at a minimum, 15. But I fully suspect that we will continue to do more and more, because for better or worse, when I sit and talk with, especially a group of teachers, I often come out of there with 3 more story ideas. One time we had a big, I think it was in 2017 when we kind of did a big launch up in Whitehall at the Howmet Playhouse, and a woman came up to me after the presentation and she says, "Are you going to do one on sibling care?" And I said, "What is that?" And she said, "That's the 9-year-old who has to get the 5-year-old ready for school in the morning." I had never thought of it. You hear it, of course, yeah, I get that, but I never realized how prevalent it is. So we have 30 or 40 scripts started already, and then we just have to determine, what the next one is going to be.
I'm going to guess that you don't really write these to kids because as an adult, they seem to be so relevant and hit home. I think you just write them to everybody. Am I wrong?
Oh, you're absolutely right. This will be a big confession here, is that people will say, well, you're supposed to target it for the 8-year-old. That's the magic age, that if you target something for an 8-year-old, apparently it tends to be applicable grades K through 5. So when I heard that, I nodded and just said, I'm writing it for myself. That's
because kids are smart. They know if you're trying to talk down to them.
Bingo. And you know, and you're obviously a cartoon fan. You can tell immediately when a cartoon is pandering to a kid. And we're both big fans of Looney Tunes. They were never intended for kids. They were written by and for adults. But the key was, as Chuck Jones even said, he goes, we just were trying to make each other laugh. And cartoons, if you are just true to the medium and you try to make them funny, they work. It really is. I'd love to say there's more to it than that, but funny is funny and relevant is relevant. It all kind of comes together.
Rocketoons, ROCKETOONS.com. Just put in your county and state all in one word with a capital letter, and you're there, and you can see these. What's your big hope for Rocketoons? Where do you hope it's going to go? What do you hope it's going to do? What can we do to help?
Oh, thank you. Nationwide. But here, right now, what I really want everyone to know is that they're out there and that they are free. I think that this is real important, is that there are so many people that are doing everything they can to help kids, but they simply don't know where the fires are burning. And if you are, I'll use a teacher for an example. If you have 28 kids, you don't know okay, why is Jennifer so alert on Wednesday, and then on Fridays, she doesn't seem to even remember her own name? I don't know what's wrong. Well, oftentimes you ask a kid, is everything okay? Well, yeah, the creepy old guy just asked me, so I'm going to be complicit and say, yeah, everything's fine. But the kids can lead you to where the problems are if you let them show you. And the cartoons, I've watched it with my own eyes, Tim. They just relax and open up, and they start talking and sharing, and then you find out that Jennifer has to go to her stepdad's on Thursdays, and that's why she's not quite herself on Fridays. And now the adult knows what the fire is, and the adult can, if it's a teacher, can go down the hall and get the DHS person, or go down the hall and get the counselor, or intervene herself, or whatever. The key is now they know. These people that have devoted their lives to helping kids, they know where to take their skills. And that's really what the cartoons are for, just to open the door.
Rocketoons.com. Tim Wheeler, nice to talk with you, and best of luck.
Thank you very much, Tim. I appreciate it.